Yeah. Yeah.
0-4-1, not like 0-4 set, like 0-4-1.
Yeah. No, I do remember.
Stunning.
Yeah. I in fact watched the game. So D+, they are going to ban away the Poppy. And now they're back on blue side. We'll see whether we do just get a rerun of... Let's just go back to our homework from the previous two games.
Oh, actually,
the first two games.
I have two of these written down already. Yeah, the Poppy Vi Nocturne. I mean, I think the Poppy ban, very warranted. Vi, potentially, Nocturne. I don't know if it's as warranted, but...
Yeah, we're all the way back. It's like we've forgotten that Game 1 didn't quite work out that well, but
Game 3 was an anomaly. Worked. Game 3 was an anomaly. Everything else is the same. Oh, no, they're going...
Oh, the Rakan pick away. There we go. Kind of like that.
The response, it's going to be a good 2v2, but I'm not sure how I feel about that. The one thing for T1, though, is that they cannot get both Maokai and Jace. One or the other.
I think Jace is just fine. Just, you know... Pick Corky again, it'll be fine. Not worked out in the last game. I think the Rakan pick away is actually amazing.
That's cool. Go for neither of them.
Yeah, there we go. And then they just ban. Then they have to ban both.
Do we think it's going to be Edge of Night, Serelda's Duskblade?
No, I have a feeling someone probably pulled Zeus aside and said,
"Don't do that."
I think it's time to build at least more than one good item.
But he'll point to that moment at the final fight where he hit a sweet spot on Showmaker and did 850 damage, and it will go.
And then they'll show him getting hit by a Chains of Corruption and instantly dying from full health.
I don't care about that. Did he win?
Well, I mean that's
your answer.
That's actually a very.
You can't argue with it.
Like, how many Nexuses did go down while he was playing Lethality?
I'm pretty sure that now means Edge of Night Aatrox is 100% win rate in LCK, so that you can't argue with stats. Jack's ban, I was thinking maybe with Rectum, but finally they're going to shove Showmaker off this Azir that he's kind of been running rampant on in the laning phase.
So now, I assume T1 are going to pick... Do they pick away the Yone? Like... Because Showmaker can now, they can Yone Renekton with Sejuani.
I mean, they can, but I feel like what they'll do is T1 will take jungle on 4, and I think Yone blind is risky. So we'll see. I would assume they'll go jungle here, and they'll leave mid, which makes there'll be less of an ability to go for that Yone blind. I think that would be a risky one from D+, but we'll see. They've obviously done some pretty crazy stuff before. Jungle pool obviously targeted quite heavily. There's so many picks that have been played by both of these, and the Rel is still open and available.
Will be taken away. So Rel into Sejuani. A lot of facilitating to be done here as the Showmaker Rise blind into Faker. That would be a choice. See whether that is going to be the lock-in. Is the Jace up and available?
They can just pick it themselves. Yeah, I think that it's a lot more stable than taking the Yone. I think Yone is very matchup dependent, unless you're Zeka. That's the exception. He can pick it in anything. But most people, you want to go for the more stable Jace pick.
Yeah, is it Jace Rumble?
That would be pretty cool if Kanna's feeling confident.
Yeah, I don't know how the Rumble into Aatrox matchup goes these days. It might be all right. You do have the ability to...
I think lane would be pretty okay.
Yeah. This is a lot of physical damage to come through from D+.
I think what we've realized is that...
Doesn't matter,
it doesn't matter that much.
No.
I think if you're really heavy AP...
The last pick mid lane Kai'Sa.
That's surely not a thing. I say as he hovers it. That's,
That seems to make a little more sense in my brain. However, this series has gone to so many different places that I wouldn't have really batted an eyelid at that one. The fact that Kai'Sa made it to R5, kind of absurd, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But the Annie going to be locked in here. Definitely a fiery theme, as it's only the Rel that doesn't have red in the portrait. And D+ look like they have a composition from a little while ago, with Aphelios back once again. I think as far as champions that do not spark joy, Aphelios is right at the top of the list for me at the moment.
He's staying Zeri. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, I think D+, we've seen a lot of T1's compositions be these kite back, heal, play for poke compositions. D+ are leaning into that now. Really strong front line, a hyper-scaling AD carry with a Enchanter support, and then Jace there for the poke. So they can maintain distance, phenomenal. But T1, they have 3 very solid forms of engage with an Aatrox to pair up with them. So I expect T1 to be playing this game pretty fast, pretty loose, going for those aggressive plays. Whereas on the side of D+, maybe a bit more restraint it's going to take from this game, which is something, you know, when it comes to the setups, the coordination, that is definitely something they've struggled with in this series.
I would agree. I also think that Faker is on something a lot more binary in that mid lane. It means he can now really call these team fights a lot more effectively, you know, turn on a dime, throw down a Tibbers, make sure that he has all of the control that he needs in order to get things done. And Showmaker, oftentimes he picks the Jace and I'm like, oh man, he's off to a 20 CS lead. It's going to be really difficult. But the last time we saw him, it was not the case. So we'll have to see an upgrade of performance here for D+ in a game that is right on the edge from them being eliminated from playoffs before they've even really started. Let's jump onto the Rift here for what could be the final game. An eruption here in Lowell Park as T1 fans are yelling at the top of their lungs.
You know what I just saw?
What did you see?
Someone on D+ was sporting a JDG MSI icon.
Ooh.
That's a little bit spicy.
Kind of like that.
Yeah.
I like that because it makes them seem a little bit less like they could be tilted off the planet, which could be a thing after the lead they had in the last game.
You show those emotes at the start of the game, and they may have done that at the start of the series and just kind of stuck with it. Hard to say.
True.
If you see it pop up in the game, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal stuff, but yeah. Looks like a potential level 1 going to come out. Level 1 ward.
Yeah, there we go. There's the level 1.
Showmaker didn't level W to one-hit the ward. That would have been the play that I would have really respected.
I'm a little bit disappointed now. Maybe didn't want to stand near the Annie.
Maybe
potentially
was more
walked up
focused
and
on lane, and given that they know the location of the ward, killing it isn't that valuable. It's good, don't get me wrong, but it's like, you know, now they can play around it, like they did last game when they ganked Faker.
And so this Lulu, this is something that Lahenz has been doing a fair bit of. Him and Aiming have been picking a fair bit of Lulu Aphelios, even now that it's sort of out of vogue, you could say.
Keria went bone plating. You're not going to have a fun time there. I'm going to be real.
Well, Kellen is just going to... Oh, man, that sidestep was slick. As Gumayusi's lit on fire quite early on in this one. Keria taking a fair bit of damage as well.
Yeah, I actually love the early Ignite, because the quicker... You know, you say this a lot, Max.
Yeah.
The early, you get it back early.
Oh, baby.
And this is kind of why people are taking things like Lulu Aphelios into Zyra Khan, because you just get bullied out. And, you know, it's quite easy to outplay the Rakan. Unlike something like a Nautilus or a Leona, dodging the W very plausible. And you just get harassed hard, and once you hit level 6, you can actually use the Lulu ult to interrupt the Rakan W and stopping ever reaching your carry. So it is a good matchup. We obviously haven't seen many enchanters recently, but we see Deft and Kellen understand the objective, win lane and win lane hard.
Yeah. And you can see 4-0 on this Aatrox, one of those edge of night, full lethality, and still picked up a win. He is just very, very good at this champion, navigates the lane very effectively, can hit those Qs quite well.
Get a bit of a CS gap so far, though. You know, obviously Zeus wants to pick up this farm, but it's quite far down. But that's 20-4 in the bot lane.
Yeah, that's the CS gap that we're really focusing on here.
If Canyon dives here, it's so over. But he's found Oner, so I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Oner taking a bit of damage here and is going to be able to get the stab smite combo that Canyon will not be able to outsmite. So nicely done there. But look at this. There's concave of minions and a plate down at 3.5 minutes in the game. Canyon knows that isn't going to be able to have that one smited away, and so now gets the speed shrine and push away the Rel. A bit of a mounted battle here.
And as much as it'd be fantastic for Canyon to find a dive here, as long as you're preventing Oner from ganking, you're fine, right? Keep the 2v2 going, and you are hard winning. That is kind of the objective here coming out from Canyon, and it's a rough start for the bot lane. You know, we've praised, even when T1 was looking rough, Keria and Gumayusi were challenging the 2v2s quite frequently, and now...
Whoa! Oh, man. Okay.
Not a good look.
No, not exactly fantastic here for the early laning phase. And we have seen that a lot of these Xayah Rakan lanes, they used to get punished a lot, right? When there were so many enchanters in the meta, it was difficult to play out the early laning phase as this Rakan. But it hasn't been the case, as now Keria has to walk his way out. Kellen takes a turret shot, and this cannon is gonna, like, at least Keria gets the experience. But when you're talking about that here at 4.5 minutes, you know that it's gonna be a rough time. Is this K'Sante gonna have to move out of the way as well? 2 plates! My gosh!
4-5 minutes. And here's the thing as well. You know, I kind of talked about how Rakan is a bit like Soraka. Oh, wait a second.
Yeah, we're going to see both junglers hanging out here. I was going to say mounted battle, one on a ball, one on pants. And Canyon is going to be able to grab the Gromp.
I was saying how Rakan got put in the meta by the massive buffs to his Q that gave him a ton of sustain. But you should actually treat it like you're playing against Soraka, where you focus on dodging the Qs, because if the Rakan lands it, all that poke, all that hard work's undone. And the thing is, Deft and Kellen were just not really allowing him to land them. And suddenly all that sustain that kind of seems like a given in Rakan lanes suddenly isn't there. You know, you miss 2 or 3 Qs in a row, and suddenly your AD carry has to recall where you'd normally be able to survive it. So,
yeah.
Pretty fantastic play so far in the bot lane. 25 CS lead at 5.5 minutes, and that's ignoring the 2 plates. And so, we have a situation where Gumayusi has Doran's Blade Cull, and Deft has Doran's Blade BF Sword.
That is a much bigger sword, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a very big sword.
That's a big sword against, like, a little scythe.
Yeah.
Like a pocket-sized
a little sickle.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a sickle is a little scythe.
I assume it is, yeah. But that's, I mean, that's great for harvesting wheat. But this big old sword that Deft has, that is for doing medieval battle.
Well, technically, if the goal is farming, then you'd think harvesting wheat is better.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. So perhaps it's actually working out. And if Gumayusi Keria don't die, as Faker is going to put a bear on top of Showmaker. Showmaker not going to appreciate that too much. And Keria, once again, a beautiful sidestep does come through. This time from Deft. Kellen going to say thank you and throw down a Glitter Lance.
You know, and often you see early boots pickups in lanes against Rakan, because you can just run out of his W if you have enough movement speed. But the BF Sword really comes out of confidence from DK's bot lane. The fact that they want maximum damage available to win lane. It's not enough to survive. And again, this game means everything for D+. Obviously keeps them in the series, but both these teams would go to regionals if they lose this series. But D+ has significantly less championship points because they had a bad performance in spring as well. If they go out here, they will 100% be on the bottom side of the bracket against DRX, and that means they will have to win 2 series to make it a Worlds.
And they have to beat Beryl on his way to Worlds as a 6th place DRX, and I would not wish that upon my worst enemy.
Exactly. Whereas T1, even if they end up losing this series, there's still a pretty reasonable chance they could end up in the top side of the bracket, get that extra safety net. The difference is massive. And so D+ are in the deficit right now and really need this game to be going well.
We'll see whether they can get there, relying upon some silver scrapes, and Deft alongside Kellen with their gigantic CS lead that they have at this early stage of the game. There is a Q. All Out comes forward as well as Canyon wanting to wait for the flash to come in as Zeus is trying to end the world. They do manage to get the permafrost. There's the layering of CC, and there is no flash option here as first blood goes to Canna.
Really well played by Canna to set that one up. Obviously the follow-up from Canyon.
Shout out to Viper.
Great. With who they may be facing in the round, you know? But yeah, phenomenal play by Canada to set that one up. Leads straight into that Herald being secured. And this is just looking like a lane gap so far. Plate taken mid, 2 plate spot, kill top, and the Herald. Everywhere is winning right now for D+.
And that kind of happened in the last game as well. And so I want to pose you the question. Orcs, does it actually mean anything for how this game is going to end? And be honest.
I'd love to say yes. I'd love to say, look, D+ ahead with this composition. You know, they're going to be in a fantastic position. But also, I've been watching this series, and I think at the end of the day, who really knows?
Yeah.
That's what we're here to find out. Will it mean anything? Or will it just end up being a big flip-flop? And we'll come down to Elder at like 45 minutes, and one of the teams will get it, and the other one will take that Nexus or something like that.
Yeah, I think it might come down to something like that. This is the largest and most controlled advantage I think we've seen in any of the games. But D+ have been pretty reliably getting leads in this series, and they've only won 1 of the 3 games.
Yeah, and there's also so much engage on T1. It is very easy to punish mistakes from D+ if someone oversteps. You know, we have Keria on the Rakan, pick with a lot more agency than the Maokai Braum we've seen from him in the last 2 games, where he was in the Braum game muted, in the Maokai game probably needs to be muted if he was on my team.
Yeah.
So cute. But yeah, looking like there's a lot of options for T1. They are looking to open up on the bot side of the map towards the Dragon. We're going to get a replay, and yeah, Kana just plays it well. Q3, ults him back, and then Zeus just has nowhere really to go. He tries to play into the brush to dodge away. That just means his death is guaranteed.
Yeah, and Canyon does flash for it in the end. Kind of going to give him the deft thumbs up. Shout out to his teammate there. Some red and white guns being picked up here for deft. Slightly closing the gap is Gumayusi here towards this bottom side. Down to 20 instead of 30. You know, you take your good things where you can find them. As kind of tanking up the turret momentarily, is going to get infernally chained, but now kind of behind the turret. Going to be pretty happy with this situation. Has his Bramble Vest completed, as well as his Steel Caps. And Zeus will now just try and fight him, and maybe he can just win, as All Out is available. Kanna is going to try and dash to where he can actually escape as the Q3 comes down. Kanna is looking for it. He breaks the chains, finds a Q. Will he have another dash? Who will have the dash first? And the answer is Zeus, and he has a Q, and he's just going to get a solo.
Not really sure what Kanna was going for when he opted to take 2 tower hits into Proxy, but that is the end result. Zeus punishes him, and Showmaker?
Yeah, there is a Magnet Storm from Oner, but he's taking a lot of damage. Canyon doesn't have a lot, though, to offer as Tibbers trying to keep Shelly busy, and if this is no charge, it is no value, and it is going to be exactly that. Kellen turns up a little bit late. Deft still getting a lot of damage down onto this turret, so at least they will get plates there. But still, D+ showing some of those cracks that we've seen prior in this series.
And you know, you asked me a question just before this.
Yeah.
Max, I think you have your answer.
Yeah. I think I already had my answer, as Showmaker's going to miss cannon.
I think deep down we all did.
Yeah. It was almost a rhetorical question. As Keria is going to supervise, as this dragon is going to be taken. The rest of his teammates not in the area, so that is going to be first Drake down. And Hextech going to be the second. No Cloud Soul. Maybe no Cloud Soul for the whole series if T1 win this game. Very sad as Zeus. We're going to have a look at it from his perspective.
Yeah, such an overcommit from Kanna, and the thing is he used all his abilities on the wave, so he has no way to escape, so he's like, you know what, let's just go in instead. And again, flips him closer to him. Just a misread, misplay, and Zeus did everything he could to punish it.
And did a fantastic job at that. He is building more lethality. We'll see how many lethality items. I think I'm actually completely all right with the Dustblade.
Dustblade's fine.
I think you can very comfortably just head towards a Black Cleaver after that. And keep yourself a little bit more relevant into some of the armor that will be built up by this Cassante. Didn't seem to matter that much, though, as he was still winning out in a lot of the trades in the last game. So we'll just have to see how it is going to go moving further forward. Kanna, if he's just not silly, we won't have a situation like that again. Thankfully, he did have a kill buffer by being able to get that gank from Canyon.
Yeah, and there's still an advantage in terms of plates for D+, sorry. So they still have that edge, but the fact that the Herald got cancelled is pretty devastating, because not only would there have been a ton of gold going towards Showmaker, but also just thinning out that mid tower, allowing you to open it up, would be such an advantage, and really set up for the second Herald being quite a bit of power.
I do like this for D+, the fact that now you've got Deft on a legitimate carry, as Kanna is going to eat some of the CC, but still Zeus throws so much damage into him. And it's like, yes, you're not going to get knocked up by the Qs, but you hold W, you just get hit by all the sweet spots, and that feels real bad.
Yeah.
As Keria is going to be found here by Kellen. Deft's going to turn up as well. They get the battle dance over the wall.
I love how all top lane, like most top lane matchups, are just absolute fistfights constantly.
Yep.
Like you get the other lanes, just like,
or Tofo fights.
True. But it's like you throw a couple of skill shots at each other, hope for the best. It's whatever. But top lane, it's just like every time we pan up, it's like a fight to the death constantly.
No, absolutely. And it's all footsies and spacing, and if you overstep, then you can look very silly very quickly.
There's no downtime for top laners. You don't, like here, you know, Faker's like, I don't want to take a shock blast. I'm going to back away, give him the tower. I'm like, there's a lot of time, a lot of downtime where no one's actually hitting each other.
Yeah. That was first Turret Blood, actually, so that is a fair bit of gold now going over to D+. As Keria going to face check Canyon. He's going to find an Arctic Assault. Canyon actually holding onto the Glacial Prison, not wanting to use it onto Keria here as Showmaker is teleported in. Gumayusi could be in trouble as they're diving forward. They just get the Feather Storm as Showmaker now going to get taken down so incredibly low. He is drilled in and Def not able to offer any damage back. That's actually Zeus getting another kill. This could be gigantic as Canyon has to back away from the area. Faker, he's got a big stun prepared. And D+, I don't know whether they're going to be able to get this because Showmaker had only just teleported in.
Yeah, I think just give it up. I don't know what the game plan was there for Showmaker, but we saw the end result. Good punish from Gumayusi and the rest of T1, and they will get the second Herald as a reward. But I keep saying this, but it's just such a weird play.
Yeah.
Because you know that Gumayusi has Sums and Ultimate, and you have no flash, and you just decide to jump on him.
Yeah.
And I just have to wonder what he thought would happen in that situation.
It's one of those things that maybe we can ask him later on, once we get out of the series, but...
Maybe I'll lie in bed at night, ponder it.
Maybe. As Canyon, I thought that maybe he'd press his R button, but decides to hold onto it for the moment. Faker now trying to fight Showmaker here, as this time he's going to jump in and grab himself a kill. Might be able to get a bear at the same time, and so that is a kill onto Faker. Can T1 find themselves any angle for a objective trade? It looks like the answer is no, as we're going to have a look at this from Gumayusi's perspective.
It's like Shock Blast misses. You know he has ult cleanse flash, and you just get way too close. And the thing is, you also lose flash from Def as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good for credit to Gumayusi for getting the root, even though the ult feathers he sidestepped, he got the root anyway. Yeah, and this one is just, you know, Canyon's always very patient with his passive, stacks it up, gets the stun, layer the ult on it, so that you can't miss it, and also the extended CC duration. And more towers taken, so D+, it definitely feels like the lane edge is still there. They are pushing advantages, but they've just said, you know what, you guys can have Dragon.
Yeah, they are just sacrificing that sort of area of the map. As Canyon, he just has an idea that someone is up here in the brush. He's going to start channeling the back. You can see T1, they're going to grab themselves a dragon. Is Faker going to get dove? The answer is maybe. There are just people standing here. And now Showmaker is going to come up and catch the wave, I guess. Or they're going to wait and see whether Faker is going to stay. And
oh, no.
He cancels the back. And then decides, wait a second, perhaps I shouldn't have. We've been sitting up here for quite some time, have we not? And T1 have now got themselves a dragon off the back of it.
Yep,
very nicely done.
Mountain Soul as well, which is pretty valuable for both teams. Obviously for the side of D+, a lot of tanks to give those resistances. Whereas for T1, you know, I feel like that extra shield would help out when you have a full lethality Aatrox. We've seen it again, see it tonight.
Yeah, no, he's doing it.
Wasn't a one-time thing.
This is just what he has discovered is the greatest build.
I think the thing is, if you change your build in this game, that would be admitting there's a fault with it.
No, exactly. And what's the win rate?
100%.
Exactly.
I have, you know, to date, I have never seen Edge of Night plus played Aatrox with Serelda's third lose a game in the LCK. So I can't find fault with that argument.
You can't fight stats.
Yeah.
You know? I think
I have tried before.
Yeah. No, me too. I sometimes predict not based on all of the stats. And look, I would be burnt.
To be fair, I do a lot of my predictions of what I like to call the vibe check.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to do it. I call it my waters. As Oner is going to wander towards Canyon, who is kind of by himself. There is a Showmaker in the area. They take down the outer turret in mid lane, though. And T1 are just kind of taking D+'s stuff, and D+ are like, oh, please don't do that. And then not really being able to do very much.
They've been playing through the sides quite well. You know, Showmaker's been having a lot of presence. Chipped down that tier 2 in the bot lane. But it hasn't felt nearly as explosive or messy as the previous games, which it kind of feels like, you know, when you come to the later end of the series, D+ being one game away from being knocked out, T1 one game away from winning, it feels like maybe the pressure's getting to the players a bit, and they're taking things a bit more reserved, a bit more slow, because those first 3 games were a bit manic.
Yes, I would agree. I do think that it benefits D+ a lot more in this game than it did in the one prior, right? If you've got a Lethality Varus, you can feel that pressure from the moment you load onto the Rift, right? Because you have a use-by date. And it felt very early in the last game, especially when there was something like a Corki on the other side. This is a little bit different because Aphelios needs lots of items. Wow, Canyon gonna find the gap onto Gumayusi there. But he had cleanse and didn't even need to use it because it was a full turret.
That was one of those moments where it's like, Canyon's just showing what he could do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
hey, look at this. Anytime. You know, he's getting Gumayusi a little bit nervous. Fishing for summoners, but under the tower there, I just think the chance of him burning any was pretty much 0.
Yeah. And, you know, some people would have gone for the cleanse just in case, but not Gumayusi. Keeps his wits about him. Canyon is going to get away from Zeus, and will do so just fine. T1 lurking towards the top side. I like that D+ do play defensively. As Def will take down the Wolf Camp. And he is very close to 2 items. And that will mean that the Aphelios will be pretty strong. It does need to be a bit accelerated for us to get those 200 years moments. And you can see farming, like, he's 40 CS ahead of the clock, probably, you know, about 12 CS per minute right now.
He must have
doing very well
in base right now. He must be sitting on so much gold.
That's Kraken on base, probably.
Yeah,
at least
he's got a fair bit of money in pocket. Got a Lulu to back him up, and I think that's the thing. He's ahead of the curve thanks to the plates, thanks to the CS he's picked up. But with the Lulu as well, it really helps to bolster. And that is going to be the aim of the game for T1. Can you get on top of Depth? Can you blow him up? Can you get on top of Showmaker? So the answer is no. You're not going to have a good time.
And they do have a lot of avenues to try and get there. We saw Magnet Storms from Oner have been fantastic. Magnet Storm, after that pull-in happens, and then layer that with the Tibbers can be a great combination, especially when you've got a Feather Storm on top of that, and you can use that offensively. But like you say, D+ has a composition that can front to back. They also can pick very effectively if you do manage to catch someone out with your Sejuani. And then you can make this more combination-style team fight from T1 quite difficult. Now looking to siege here is Deft, standing in the front line, needing to get autos onto this turret, but Zeus gets the bottom outer. And while D+ are kind of K-ramming, Zeus kind of left
to his own devices, yeah. And he's been picking up quite a lot of farm, but a pretty substantial lead over his opponent, but it just feels like D+ are so focused. Like, we want that mid-tier 1, and we want the dragon. And they're really committing, trying to make the play happen, but Keria now has a flank. And honestly, the ward gives it away.
Yeah, he walked over a lot of vision, actually, getting over there. As Keria now walking towards this control ward. Canna moving forward as well. Does find Keria as he dashes forward, but Keria is going to be able to keep himself safe with a battle dance over the wall. Oner taking a little bit of poke as Deft really wanting to get autos on this turret if he can find them.
It's so risky though against this T1 comp. There's so much engage. Oh, Keria?
Yeah, he's going to get dove on once again. He's desperately looking for these flanks as he battle dances. Has the extended range, and that shock blast, fantastic here from Showmaker. That is going to force the back, and it might mean that the Drake now does belong to D+. Zeus just moving towards his bottom lane to make sure that D+ are going to pay for it if they do take this. And will be able to.
I don't think T1 can contest this now. You can see even Kellen is recalling. He's like, yep, show's over, we're good. And I think that's the correct call. I don't think T1 are going to be able to move in. Zeus is in the vicinity. But suddenly they're like, wait, we're against T1.
Yeah.
What are they just Baron?
Where's the Baron angle? Well, they are moving over towards it. You can see vision being cleared out. And it is going to be at least a Rift Scuttler. The Baron gets a little bit frustrated, and they do get a teleport out of D+. And I don't know whether they have. Of course they have. It's T1. They've started the Baron. And now Faker and Keria off on a flank angle. Yep. They're going to move out of the pit, though. As you can see, Canna is not going to be infernally chained. And DK, with this move towards the Baron pit, they will be guaranteed this outer turret. I don't think Zeus is going to be enough to defend, and he understands that as well. So, D+ kind of layering the advantages that they pick up from this situation. A better look here for the squad.
And learning a lesson, you know, against T1, if you don't see them on vision, then you either know they're on Baron, or you don't know they're on Baron, but they are still on it. Is basically the answer to the situation. They've learned that they are going to be on it. They forced them off, they got the dragon, ticked all the boxes, and as much as that gold lead hasn't really expanded much more, there's so much gold on Deft right now. I think really it's only 1,000 lead between them, but I think between the top laners alone, Zeus probably has maybe like 1,000, 1,500 advantage. So
yeah,
the rest of D+ is their advantage is offset by that when it comes to the total gold.
And Deft is even taking jungle camps away from Canyon as well. Like there's a lot that's going on here as far as making sure that Deft can just hard carry this game. So much is going to be on just the bottom lane, right? Deft and Kellen. I think the polymorphs are going to be very important. But I also think that Deft's positioning, and if they have to use too many defensive tools onto him to keep him alive and allow him to carry, that's where things could get dicey.
Yeah, also the wild growth. You know, you can interrupt Rakan W with it. You can interrupt the crash down from the Rel with it. A lot of value can be had if it's timed correctly. So looking to see what Kellen can do when it comes to these team fights. But we haven't had too many. It's been a bit of a slow going on this one. Both teams just kind of leaning into the picking up gold as much as possible for their carries.
Yep. Showmaker now just clearing waves with shock blasts. Wants to play defensively with the fact that Oner is lurking towards this top side. Of course, this is the last remaining outer turret. Makes sense that T1 would have that one in their sights. Steph now red-white guns, the two that were nerfed on this patch. Or two of the ones that were nerfed. Of course, Graviton was a little bit as well. Not going to be slowing for quite as much.
I think it'll still do the job, but yeah, a little bit weaker.
I feel like the Graviton nerf is the least noticeable.
Yeah.
It was the item nerfs prior that were the big problem.
And of course.
D+ are just going to start this one up. They do have a lot of damage available. There are some decent guns as well for doing damage to Baron and for team fighting, as a teleport is going to be picked up here. In fact, two of them, as T1 get Faker in there, and the Aatrox was teleporting as well, but he didn't turn up in exactly the same position. This
is so good, though. This is showing growth. They don't try and finish the Baron. They get the TPs, and they're like, this is all we wanted. This is what I was hoping for from D+. They're learning.
Yeah, and now Zeus is going back. I think might get spotted. Yeah, is found by Showmaker, who finds a little position to break the chain. And he's now looking. He wants to stop Zeus from backing, allow the rest of his team to get more positional advantage on this map. Also able to get towards the bottom lane full of minions. Red dot syndrome is certainly a big thing. Sees those red dots, wants to hoover them up.
Yep. And I think at this point, we're starting to think about the Dragon in a minute 25. Would be soul point for D+, and those resistances would start to be really significant, stacking up pretty nicely. Even for the squishier members, you can start to get really high levels of armor, especially if Death ends up with a GA. And with the shielding from the Lulu, it ends up even higher value. So D+ definitely got their sights on that. And I feel like this is kind of the point where it's just going to come down to an explosive team fight in the next minute.
Yep. Keria walking towards that control ward as Death is going to go home and does have Kellen there to aid him with a bit of a whimsy shield. Make sure that no interruptions do come through Canyon. Going to find Oner, or has Oner found Canyon? Arctic Assault gets Canyon out of there, and Oner is going to lose Canyon. Doesn't want to exactly crash down into the dark. Seems like a dangerous move. Deft
a little bit
moving back in, and I really like this. He had a BF sword, and I was like, does that mean third item Bloodthirster? That doesn't feel great. Instead, he goes back and actually completes the last Whisper. I think identifying something similar to what you were just thinking about, with the fact that armor can start getting stacked up.
Yeah, especially Oner is going to feel a fair bit bulkier now, but still, it's the squishy build for Zeus, and he's just finished the Sereldas, so he is very one-hittable, but he will also do obscene damage.
To be one hit or to one hit? That is the question.
I think, honestly, it's a pretty Giga Chat approach.
I would agree.
With how you play this champion.
Would you say that it's Morgan approved?
I could totally see Morgan doing this.
Yeah. I could see him saying that it's a good move. As D+ are going to... Oh, that's a lot of damage onto a priority target here, as Canna is not going to waste any time. They get a Featherstorm already. It's angled pretty nicely here, but now Zeus realizes that he cannot stay in this Baron pit. And T1 losing all of this damage on their main carry is going to give D+ an opportunity to head over towards the Baron themselves. Keria looking for that flank angle, and Faker is still there. Flash Tibbers both available. Canyon needs to be careful with his positioning also, as D+, they have a feeling that Keria is lurking over the wall. The control ward going to spot him out, as now Zeus wanting to get back into the fight once again. DK, they back away. Moonlight Vigil clips Faker right on the edge, and they grab the seat. Oh, Canyon not able to get an Oner. Locks down the Baron, but can D+ find the fight? The Aphelios already taken out, and T1! Oh, it's the lethality on this Aatrox, and he decided he's not going to get one shot. He is one-shotting them.
Manages to get the Baron with the smite from Oner, but on top of that, they crush all of D+. The engage comes in, the momentum comes in. They might actually just end.
This might just be the end of the game. You're exactly right.
Seconds with Baron, only Kellen to defend. Looks like they're hesitating on it. Keria up to the recall. Looks like they're not going to look for the eye. Would have been kind of close, but they think they don't need to end the game right now. They'll take the inhib, probably reset and head over to the Dragon, but man, D+ get decimated in that fight.
5-1-1 on Zeus's triple lethality Aatrox. Well, sort of triple lethality with the Cyrildas coming in as the third item.
Win rate, you know?
Yeah, I know, and I can see why.
And Death Gale Force is in here, and then the clutch flash ult from Faker onto both the carries, layered with all that CC. So yeah, Zeus cleaned up the fight. Faker, he's back.
Faker, Keria, both of them together. The flash grand entrance to make sure that they can get the quickness on top. Oh man, really nicely played here by T1. They'll also be able to even out these dragons. And that Baron power play is looking much better than their first one in the previous game. And it's another game where D+ find themselves some great advantages, and then something goes wrong.
And it feels like so many of these games have come down to one big play. One moment where someone has made an engage or an aggressive play that has just decided the entire game.
This is reminiscent of the previous gold draft, is it not?
Very much so. And it feels like it's a similar thing. Just that one moment, that one opportunity where you manage to catch someone out of position. It's coming down to these objectives. It was kind of what Chronicler was saying on the desk, is that it's not really actually about the objectives themselves. It's about the fight for the objective.
Yeah.
And whichever team can come out ahead on that.
Doesn't matter whether you kill the dragon or the Baron or whatever it is. It's about how many of the champions that you manage to destroy. As Deft can pop minion waves very effectively. Does have Lord Doms now completed as Keria looks for Canyon. Canyon is just going to be able to sidestep the grand entrance. But these shock blasts aren't really landing for very much damage. And yes, D+, they can clear out waves in the mid lane and the bottom lane. But the top wave has already sort of been taken care of here by T1, and they can start suffocating D+ out of their own jungle. You can see the gold lead, or the Baron power play, sorry, still to the tune of about 5,000. And of course, you know, it's not over until the Nexus explodes, but it's feeling closer and closer to that here for T1.
Yeah, it's got a lot harder. The thing is, you know, you have so much engage threat from T1. You have the Xayah, who's obviously a threat in her own right, but this Aatrox has just picked up a GA and is just doing absurd damage.
Yeah.
I just don't know what, like, I feel like it's going to take so much effort from D+ to kill the Aatrox, and you just don't have time in team fights. When they're all engaging on you, like, D+ need to peel phenomenally, and I honestly think, like, Cannon needs to, like, drag someone away, like the Aatrox, into an isolated 1v1. Then he probably loses, but at least he's not there to kill your team.
Yeah, Oner is almost able to steal away that Rift Scuttler. I think D+ have one more team fight. I think there's one more team fight that they do have a chance of winning. I think they will need to outplay given the amount of money that T1 have just picked up and the amount of map control that they'll have. But I think there is one more opportunity. I think if it's lost by D+, though, I don't really see too many opportunities to get back into this one.
Next fight lost, T1 probably just end.
Yeah, true. So we won't have to wait very long.
Nope.
It still might be a true fact.
Now, here's the thing, like, it felt like the game was so even in terms of map control. Both teams pushing up to around the middle point of the map, contesting back and forth in the river, and now it just feels like D+ can barely leave their own base.
Yeah.
And T1 are just taking over and choking them out. You see them now leaning towards bot, Faker and Gumayusi there, and Shomek has to respect the Annie.
And now Keria able to move around in between these turrets very effectively, just occupy the enemy jungle, as Canyon really wanting to try and brute force his way in to get any semblance of control, and just get a couple of autos into that control ward. Anna does have his Gargoyle Stone Plate completed, is actually pretty valuable in some of these team fights, and Def does do a lot of damage. But Zeus is just going to park a massive minion wave with 2 supers on these Nexus turrets. Def is going to be distracted. Not exactly the greatest of coordination, but the next time a big wave like that comes in, this turret is dead unless they're going to cut it off at the pass.
And they're doing what they can just to hold on, but the problem is there's another Baron in 40 seconds. There's another Dragon in a minute, and you haven't left your base in probably the last 3 minutes, maybe. And if you look at the map, there's one ward that's about a timeout in mid.
Hey, there's a control ward in top Triber.
Yeah,
there we go.
That's what you're working with right now. Oh, you do have, I think that's a blue ward in top lane brush, which is helpful to no one, but it is there. Oh, there's a blue ward.
Beautiful.
You know,
repairing, and is providing vision of Zeus.
Exactly. And now they're aggressively pushing in.
That is a Glacial Prison. They do manage to get the cleanse out of Gumayusi, who takes a lot of damage. The flash comes out as Tibbers into the back line, and Explode goes to Lulu. But thankfully it's not Def, but he has to deal with Zeus, who just blows him up. My god, the damage of this Aatrox is absurd. Showmaker tries to use his hammer to get rid of him, but the Infernal Chains come down, and it's a double once again. I think Zeus might get a POG for this particular game, as it's looking a little bit like a 3-1 for T1 as they take down the inhibitor. They'll take down the Nexus turrets, and they are moving on in the playoffs. Could even be a telecom war for the next round as well. Congratulations.